Welcome back to Retirement News Online. So planning for long-term care is one of the most important and often overlooked parts of retirement planning. With rising healthcare costs and longer life expectancy, it is crucial to have a strategy in place to protect your savings and ensure quality care if and when you do need it. Now, talking with a financial advisor can help you understand your options and create a plan that fits your goals and your needs. That's why we have my guest today, Carlos Rojas. He's an independent wealth strategist with Rojas Retirement Solutions in Visalia, California. So, Carlos, when we're talking about long-term care, insurance products, hybrid insurance products, how do they work and how can they take care of what can be a really big problem, covering the cost of long-term care, which is constantly going up? How do they work?
Sure. So a long-term care product, specifically within an annuity, can many times act as a multiplier for a benefit that many standalone long-term care policies really don't provide. In addition, clients can use their retirement to offset those costs, which, like you mentioned, many times people don't have either the insurance or the proper coverage needed to cover very high expensive long-term care needs.
Yeah, and so what you're talking about is, so people think about the bad part of long-term care insurance, which is if you don't need it, you lose all those premiums that you've been paying. So in this case, you're taking what could be an investment in something else, moving it over into, for example, an FIA or an annuity product with a hybrid rider with it, so that in the event you need to pay for long-term care, it doubles in some sense, and in the event that you don't have the capacity to do at least two of the activities of daily living, is what I understand?
Yes, yes. So, they've done research where on average what it's costing to just take your average care of those daily needs that you mentioned is around $100,000 a year. And a lot of times people either come into the situation without having the proper coverage, and so the riders within these annuities many times can act as a multiplier to that benefit, acting as that long-term care benefit that, in other words, they wouldn't really have it if they didn't qualify or have the insurance prior.
And if for some reason they don't use it, they're not paying premiums, so it's still their money.
Exactly. So a lot of these standalone long-term care policies many times are just there to cover those costs, where the beneficiaries would never get anything should something happen to those loved ones. But with an annuity, whatever the client drew down and whatever is left over can essentially pass down to those beneficiaries.
Would it be okay to call it like long-term care insurance without premiums?
I guess you can say that.
Well, think about that. That's really interesting. One of the studies that we've seen is that 70% of people will have the need for some form of long-term care, especially if you're 65 right now, that there's going to be something that may happen. And so 70% are pretty decent odds that you're going to need some level of it. So in this case, let's go back to a long-term care event where you said, it can cost $100,000 a year. What does that do to a retirement plan if you don't have protection in place?
Well, sadly, a lot of times what that can mean is it can cost their retirement nest egg, potentially draining everything that they've worked and saved their whole life. In fact, I've sat with many people where it's unfortunate that were caring for a loved one where they had to leave work many times to take care of their parents or their loved one because they depleted their entire savings. So that's a really big factor to that question that you just asked. And
then, to have Medicaid kick in, which is the other option, you have to look as poor as you possibly can before they can actually use it. I guess the ending question here is, so a lot of people don't know that these strategies exist.
Yeah.
Not every advisor talks about them. How does somebody know if they have the right advisor?
So I think asking the right questions and understanding your needs is a big important part in knowing what you're looking for and what can help you in your specific situation, especially when it comes down to long-term care. There's a lot of strategies out there that one can benefit, partnerships within annuities that can be used to offset those costs that will potentially drain down your retirement. And at the same time, clients and individuals can now qualify or utilize these long-term care benefits through things like Medicaid and
And it
Medi-Cal.
doesn't sound like in most cases that if you're working solely with a broker, which they're great people, they're great at accumulating assets, they're probably not going to have access to something like this. So it's an important, probably detail that you need to consider is working with somebody who's a retirement specialist.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
that. Carlos, thank you.
Thank you.
He's Carlos Rojas with Carlos Retirement Solutions in Visalia, California, and you've been watching Retirement News Online.